All right, welcome back, guys. So here's another film review for you, Brahmastra Part 1 Shiva. So this one I just recently watched as well, and I have to say, it's an interesting film. This reminds me very much of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but you must understand that a lot of these myths and concepts were derived from ancient times, and of course, a lot of those are from Hinduism, which is pretty much like one of the oldest religions to ever exist. Questionably the oldest, I would say, arguably the oldest. But there were also other religions that eventually interpreted the idea of the elements and the creation of the earth and the superior beings and stuff. And one good example is Greek mythology, who actually took a lot of concepts from Hinduism, where Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva for them is Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. It's sort of like the creator, protector, and destroyer concept, the trio kind of concept, right? So Brahmastra actually has a lot of these very ancient Hindu-ish concepts that they bring together and display in a very modern setting. And I really like that because this is a concept that has been talked about for many, many years by so many, like I would say people in India or Hindus who are into their lore and their kind of mystical culture and this belief that there are these elements that dictate our lives, which is that is true. Elements do dictate our lives, but the way they believe in them is that the sages existed and they were able to communicate with these astral elements, and they had these special weapons and stuff. And even if you look back into the ancient stories in Hinduism, even before Mahabharata was made, there were so many talks of these astral weapons and these ancient abilities that people used to have where they can communicate with the astral plane. They can gain powers from the astral plane. They would gain control over elements, control over beastly forms, and stuff like that. And so Brahmastra actually brings that all together into one film to give you a very unique take on the Avatar Last Airbender concept. So there are elements in this story, earth, fire, and air, I believe. I don't know whether they mention water, but I think there is water. It should be three or four. Um, and so these elements basically will come together, and yeah, there's like a huge battle that's going to happen that ensued many years ago. And out of that, apparently there was one ultimate Astra that was born, which is like this ancient source of energy or weapon. Not too much specifics is given in the lore itself, but I believe they kept it ambiguous because um, it would still be meaningless to us considering the main character doesn't understand too much of it. So for us to know so much would also not make too much sense because we would be like, okay, so we know all this. When is the main character going to know all this, right? So instead, they make it such that they only tell you the basic story of what happened, like thousands of years ago, and then they show you the current day story of the character who is trying to figure himself out. So Brahmastra is basically about this main character essentially, who is played by Ranbir Kapoor, Shiva, who has the ability to control the element of fire. And so a lot of the other Astra users who are sages, but in modern day, have found a new way to represent their lives. So, for example, Shah Rukh Khan, who plays this scientist called Mohan Bhargav, he's a scientist in modern day. So back then, you would have been a sage, right? A sage who studies science. Today he's known as a scientist because that's how they interpret it in modern day. Nagarjuna is playing this guy called Anish Shetty, who is an artist in this story in modern day. So back then they would have been a sage who studies art and literature and concepts like that. Today they're just known as an artist. And the last one is still a sage. He's guru. He's basically like this teacher in the near the Himalayas who teaches his students to train and master their astras and their combat and stuff. And he's usually hidden apparently. So he's played by Amitabh Bachchan, and he is the guru, the last of the three main sages. And so these three sages have like other people who are also studying to control the astras, who are there to protect the ultimate weapon, which is the Brahmastra. But apparently, the Brahmastra has been broken down into three pieces, and so it's divided between these three unique sages. So Mohan has one, Anish has one, and Guru has one piece. And so the story starts off with the attack onto Mohan. A cool battle, by the way, a very decent battle. The CGI in this is okay. It's not the level of um, Marvel or DC or Avatar level CGI. It's none of those stuff. It's just very basic CGI, but it's still better than everything else I've seen come out of India. I've not seen much good CGI come out from Indian movies. So it's very nice to see a very well done CGI in this film, especially when they show the special effects of all the battles and stuff. It's decent. I have to say it's not the worst. Like you see some of these, it may look a little bit cheesy, but honestly, it feels like a freaking anime battle when you watch this in HD. It's really really cool. Like let's see if I can find a shot of some of the CGI here. Look at this. This is purely CGI. It really feels like you're looking at an anime come to life, and that combined with the realistic elements of the characters being there. You see the way this is Shah Rukh Khan floating in the sky with the monkey um, sort of illusion being conjured behind him to sort of show that he's embodying the power of the monkey, which is using it in his anklet. It's an astra that is hidden in an anklet. So it's really cool the way they combine the CGI together with the actual characters to show you these powers. It really, really feels like this amazing fantasy world brought to life in modern day. And whoever these geniuses are behind it, just don't stop. Don't listen to the negative comments about whatever people are saying because you're on the right path. You have an amazing imagination. You have a fantastic CGI team. And with more time and effort, I'm sure that this would be a film that will be remembered forever if you can do it right. But for now, the first one, part one, Shiva, is just as it is. I can give it a 4 out of 10. It is really nice music, really nice characters. Of course, there's that unrealistic element of why can the main character all of a sudden know all the dance moves and everyone in the crowd can dance together? But that's just the fourth wall breaking elements of Tamil cinema or rather Indian cinema because it's Hindu. I mean, it's a Hindi or a Tamil or Malayali or whatever thing, right? So in Indian cinema, it's just this fourth wall breaking element that everyone in the crowd is going to know the same dance move, and all the music will start playing at the exact same time out of nowhere. Okay, there's no logic to it. But this film doesn't really rely on logic at all. It really shows you that you're brought into this fantasy world using the background to really draw you in and show you fantasy elements throughout. There's a lot of great colors, especially the part that Alia Bhatt and Ranbir Kapoor are actually running around these rooftops and sort of gradually falling in love. Um, Even then, it's pretty questionable to why the girl all of a sudden just listens to this guy to run around with him. Like girls don't do that. Even like even I don't know, I don't care 20, 30 years ago or even today. If a guy just calls a girl, "Hey, come run with me on rooftops. I'm going to take you to this party." The girl's not going to follow you, dude. She's not going to trust you. But one good thing about this is that the girl actually brings two friends, so it makes it kind of realistic. If you do want to go out with a guy who all of a sudden, picks you up, and you're really excited with him, you do feel it's love at first sight, but you don't know you do care for your safety, you should take some friends along. So it's really cool that they actually showed Alia Bhatt deciding to take some friends along while she follows this wild goose chase with Shiva to go and make it to his party, only to reveal that his party is at this orphanage. That he's actually caring for an orphanage with a bunch of kids inside, and so she eventually falls in love with him through that second-hand sentiment, basically, that he is this orphan and he grew up in an orphanage and now he's taking care of an orphanage. Only to later reveal that he actually had parents, but he can't really recall who they are, and he doesn't want to talk about his mother. His father left him or something like that. So this is where things get more interesting because the main plot comes in. The love story was just being set up just so that they can keep Isha in the picture with him, so they can have a girl following him around wherever she goes. But she's not completely useless. Isha actually has ways of helping Shiva in ways that he would not normally be able to help himself. When needing to provide cover from some villains who are after Shiva, Isha actually distracts them by pretending to be a commoner holding her cell phone and saying that my phone's out of battery, can I borrow your phone? I need to call my friend. Oh, come on, don't be such a jackass, let me borrow your phone. These kinds of things that she throws in to distract the villains, and it does work. It buys Shiva enough time to protect, I believe, the artist from being attacked by these villains. So the first people the villain attacks is the scientist, played by Shah Rukh Khan. They defeat him and they torture him for an entire week to get the secret location of the artist. The only location that they can't reveal is Guru's location. And so after that, Shah Rukh Khan wakes up from the control, and in some way, you believe that Shah Rukh Khan can tell that Shiva is watching, like Mohan, the scientist, can tell that Shiva is watching or something, and so he decides to sort of kill himself because he doesn't want to reveal the location of Guru, and so he commits suicide. And the next day, the suicide is reported on the news. But then Shiva realizes that he has to go and do something because he's getting these visions, and so he goes to help the artist, and he brings Isha along, and Isha agrees to go with him this time because she wants to believe him, and she thinks that he can't be crazy because I don't know, he runs an orphanage, so he can't be crazy. I really don't know. Like these girls just trust people. So Shiva takes Isha to this place with the artist, and I think Isha just wants to believe that there is something else out there in the world, and it is possible to think that way, considering at the very first scene when Shiva and Isha meet, they are both in a temple praying to this, I believe it's Kaliyama or some ancient god, right? They're praying to the god. And so for the fact that they're both in the temple praying to these gods means that they do inertly have some sense of belief in mystical elements. So it's not too far-fetched to think that Isha does believe that Shiva is having some visions, but she can't quite be too sure. She wants to continue to believing in him, so she follows him to go and see if he can help the artist. But during their encounter with the artist, she does end up believing in Shiva because she actually sees the evil Zor and Raftar who are using their magic to jump around the rooftops. And so she spots them and she starts to believe in Shiva more and more as time goes on, only to accept the fact that Shiva is this mystical being who can control fire. And so the second wielder, the first one, the scientist wields the monkey anklet. The second one, the artist wields the bull armlet, and so he's like ridiculously strong, and it's so cool. And there's such a fantastic CGI scene of him defending himself. Can't quite see if I can find it here, but it is in this little trailer below here. It's in one of these little trailers here that you can see him like using the armlet, I think. Oh well, never mind. But yeah, it's really cool the way they conjure those powers and use those and display them. So yeah, after the defeat of I mean, the villains do eventually defeat the bull as well. So the artist gets defeated, but he leaves the second piece of the Brahmastra in the care of Shiva and Isha, who end up in this insane car chase with the villain. I mean, Isha feels kind of, I don't know, plot armored in that scene. They could have shown that she sustains a lot worse injuries or she just avoids being attacked. But she was basically hanging off the side of a car for a long, long chase with the villain trying to reach out for the weapon. And also, like the villain is so strong, he could have just plummeted her to the ground in a single punch. So I don't know how Isha could hold on for so long. But that aside, they somehow survived the car chase. Shiva and Isha eventually go to discover the location of the guru by, they were given the location by the artist. So they go and find the guru. And the guru is, in fact, what do you call this, the last of the three sages, and he helps to teach Shiva to control his powers. And so you can actually see Shiva learning to control his powers, and he doesn't manage it right away. He takes time to learn his powers, and in order to focus in this learning, they actually send Isha away. They send her back home, telling her that it's safer for you to actually be back at your own respective location, and we're going to send people to keep an eye on you. So this is brilliant. This is like genius thinking, right? They're actually using their brains where they know that Isha could be under threat, but they don't want Isha to be under threat where Shiva is. So they split them up. They send them to two separate locations so that the bad force, the villains also have to be divided. Guru sends people to protect Isha so that she's safe where she is, and he continues to train Shiva so that he continues to master his powers. So you can see that they're showing you he's not a Mary Sue. He has to learn his powers, and Isha is not safe with him. They can't be having romance every day if he's going to focus on his fighting. So she actually has to go back and stay safe and hidden as well. So all of this is just done so well that I have so much respect for the writers of this who knew exactly what they were writing when they were coming about this part, right? It's just that they could have done it a lot better, but hey, this is not Hollywood, this is Bollywood, and it's still really impressive. I was really, really happy to see the level of determination they had in making this film and trying to get the right characters to make the right decisions and logical decisions as these people would. Sure, they're living in this mystical fantasy world where they have all these powers, and it wouldn't make sense for them to have those powers in the first place. But even if you have those powers, to show that they are still relatable and logical thinking human beings is the grounding element to this story, and as it should be to all other stories, right? So yeah, that's the cool thing. So Shiva does eventually learn to master his powers. He finds out that he's the core, or rather the switch for his powers comes from love. And so his love for Isha is what really ignites his powers, and pun intended, he learns to master his powers of fire. However, the one unique thing is that Shiva does need to have some source of fire to use his powers. So if there's no source of fire, he can't really conjure them. So Guru provides him a lighter to use later on in the battles, which he does. And so the cool thing is that every other sage essentially has to have like a physical object which they use as an astra, which is what they use to use its powers. But Shiva is the astra himself, so he can conjure fire as long as he is alive and is able to find a source of fire. He doesn't need to hold any weapon or object to use that power. So he is eventually going to become a lot more powerful because he's inseparable from his ashra in a way, but because it is coming from within him, learning to control it over time makes him stronger and stronger. And the fire, the battles with the flames, and the intensity of the battles were absolutely amazing. I simply enjoyed it. The CGI was so well done. Um, there were moments where you think like, okay, like, are they going to mess it up? They didn't. It actually felt really really cool. So the eventual twist of the story is that he's actually the son of two very powerful sages who existed long ago. One of them is actually this guy called. Wait, is he here? No, he's not. But it's basically this guy called Dave, and Dave is like this ultimate what do you call this? What is that fire wielding guy in Avatar, The Last Airbender? Give me a sec. Okay, never mind. I just sort of recalled it off the top of my head. Fire Lord Ozai. So his father is like Fire Lord Ozai, and his mother is like this waterbender who eventually defeats him. But his father, Dev, the Fire Lord Ozai guy, is actually he can control up to like 4 Astras or something. So he's like superior because he can control so many Astras, but he wants to control the Brahmastra, which is the ultimate Astra, who all the other sages only protect, they don't wield it because it's just too powerful for any mortal being to wield it, but Dev believes he can. He is, however, defeated by the love of his life, who is the mother of Shiva, who is a waterbender, but she defeats him not because she's stronger than him, not because she can wield more Astras than him, but because they are in love with each other. And that's such a fine plot to put in there and to tread around, and it's so well done because it makes sense. And that is why their son, born of love, Shiva, uses love to conjure his powers. And so it fulfills the circle between them. But Dev doesn't truly die. Dev is sort of in this fossilized state where he's using pieces of his power to continue to empower his zealots, sort of thing, like his minions to go out and do his bidding. And so you have all these villains who are having pieces of his power to do his bidding, but he's not truly defeated. Shiva's mother, on the other hand, also doesn't lose the fight, but goes on to mother a child, which is Shiva, but eventually she dies in flames, ironically, in her house when he catches fire. So there is a sort of gray area element to this where Shiva doesn't want to talk about his mother because he actually saw her burn to death in flames that was in his house. But I do have a feeling that if there was a director's cut, I think the director will be a lot more direct in actually revealing to us the fact that his mother actually died because of his own fire. And I mean, Shiva killed his mother. That would have been such a cool and deep and dark plot to add in. But I think they just didn't want to go down that rabbit hole because it's pretty dark, right? The fact that Shiva's power is what killed his mother, and so he has a trauma that's everlasting. It would have been such a cool thing to add on, but they didn't really say that specifically. They just kept it very gray that Shiva's house caught fire and Shiva was not able to do anything, and he watched his mother die, but he didn't die because he's fireproof as a baby. So the baby survives the flames, and they don't really explain who found him. At least I can't remember if they explained who found him from the flames or something. But yeah, he's fireproof, so he survives it, and that's the reason why he doesn't want to use his powers because he's afraid of fire. But they could have shown it the fact that they could have thrown in the point that it was his flames that killed the mother. Um, in a way, sort of fulfilling his father's battle. Where his father almost defeated the mother. So yeah, that could have been really cool. Regardless, the end of part one, Shiva actually masters control of the Brahmastra. When he combines, he's able to use his flames to protect the world from the destruction power of the destructive power of the Brahmastra. And using his flames, he sort of calms it down. Because his flames are not ordinary flames; they're flames empowered by love, and so they're unique flames, right? They're like phoenix fire or something. And so they come down the Brahmastra, he takes control of the Brahmastra, and so the story ends at that very point. It's really, really cool. I absolutely enjoyed this film. I actually want to give it a little bit higher, although I feel that in the overall scale of things, there are just so many great movies out there. But I felt that in terms of being an Avatar Last Airbender sort of film, this is like the closest thing we've got. For a Bollywood film, I think like in the scale of things, I wanted to maybe give it a 6 or 7. But overall, if I were to compare this film as a film, right, to the rest of the world, I think it's a 5. I can't really go any higher. I wanted to give it a 4, but I really feel that is something that may get better as the second part comes out. And I'm expecting the second part to probably be a 6 or 7, considering the director will learn from his mistakes. Because I'm sure he's an awesome guy and knows exactly what he's doing. And the writers as well, I think they spent a great amount of time to work on all the screenplay and the dialogues that I think played were not cheesy at all. None of the dialogues in this were ever at all cheesy. Everything made perfect sense. To control his powers, to the love of his mother is what's giving him strength, the fury of his father is what is in his is his power, and so he's actually the perfect person to defeat his father, but he also has to master his powers. He has to leave his love of his life a bit, to learn to master his powers. He's not a Mary Sue. All of these things really came together so well. And so I think, to give it the benefit of the doubt, I'm actually going to give this film a 5, and tell you that it's a really good movie. It may be worth one rewatch, but probably rewatch it just before the second part comes out. But honestly, compared to the rest of the reviews out there that I've heard, which are, I mean, I haven't seen these. Honestly, I haven't never clicked this part. I heard it from my wife and a bunch of friends that this movie is not really considered a very good movie in India. Great visuals, but kind of thing. See, if you want big music, extraordinary visuals, movie for you. When for content, it was okay-ish, at times even boring in the first half. Annoys me how difficult it is for them to produce, understand big popular cast, music, visuals, promotion on what make a movie. Instead, good story and more importantly, amazing storytelling abilities. I don't see the problem in the storytelling in this, honestly. I'm a guy who's a fan of Christopher Nolan films. Unique plot and disappointment. What lacks unique plot? When was the last time an Indians made an Avatar, um, a Last Airbender sort of film? Never. I don't think anyone has been daring enough to make a film as visually impressive and as unique in terms of story. In terms of like the Jackie Chan adventures, right, where the each person can control one of the horoscope. What do you call those things? Like the amulets, right? It's like the horoscope amulets, the rabbit amulet or whatever like that, right? So yeah, we never had one of those in made in Bollywood or Collywood or Tollywood or whatever, right? So yeah, they never had those. So it's really interesting if this could go on to sort of prove to people that um, it is going to be an outstanding film, and I'm sure it will have a better global reception compared to what the locals see this film as. It says that in terms of storyline, it lacks with what Kartikeya 2 was able to achieve with the storyline narration. Songs are good. I'm really amazed. I mean, like, honestly, what do these people consider a good movie, right? Let's see, Bollywood 2022. Let's just have a look at this, just to quickly gauge like what's a good film. Let's see, sort by IMDb rating. The Kashmir Files is an 8.3. It's a documentary, guys. Okay, let's see what they rate for like Three Idiots, right? Mm, Three Idiots. There we go, Americans, Three Idiots. Because this was a really, really big film. 8.4, I see. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I think that's a decent. In that case, I think the rating is fine. A 5 out of 10, I'll take it. Like, if everyone is thinking the way I am, I think a 5 out of 10 is absolutely fine. Because, you can't compare this to very impressive Hollywood films. At the same time, this is a really impressive Bollywood film. I have to say, look at that. The visuals of that bull running into that. That in HD was really, really good. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I think this is a really cool film. I can't wait for the second part. Don't stop doing whatever you guys are doing. This is like my second, like I mean, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the film was absolute trash. Whatever M Night Shyamalan tried should never have been attempted, but it was. And this is a better attempt at the same thing. And this guy's a firebender, which is so freaking cool because his flames are just all over the place, torching his enemies. And they really show a lot of those, very offensive skill scenes, like really, really well, how the fire goes around, forks at people, attacks them individually. It's really well done and designed, and I see really no harm to the way it is. And also the lore and the story, the myth of the Brahmastra itself, I think is really well written. It is very, very close to the lores of Hinduism, of the elements and stuff, as I said before. So yeah, can't wait for it. Can't wait for him to challenge his father, the real Fire Lord Ozai in the story. Really, really looking forward to it. But yeah, pretty cool. Really, really cool film. You guys should check it out if you have not already. And if you guys did watch this film already and don't think it's that good of a film. I mean, honestly, you guys probably didn't like Avatar: The Last Airbender, did you? But yeah, by the way, if you guys have not already watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, I highly recommend it. It's one of the greatest cartoons in the world, in my opinion, and probably an animation that I will take to the grave in my heart. It's really, really good, and it really did talk a lot of about the elements of Hinduism that even Hindus don't really make films of. So it is really nice that Nickelodeon did that cartoon back then. So enjoyable, so so cool. But yeah, that's about it from me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.